have to tell you, I was at the grocery store yesterday and I had what I can only describe as a minor existential crisis in the dairy aisle.
Oh, no. Wait, in the vegan dairy aisle. Right.
Oh, yeah, exactly. The vegan dairy aisle, which, by the way, used to just be one lonely carton of soy milk. But now, I mean, I was standing there staring at like 14 different types of oat milk alone.
Just oat milk.
Just oat milk. Barista blend, extra creamy, unsweetened, vanilla, zero sugar. And I just stood there for, I don't know, maybe 3 full minutes, completely frozen. My brain just entirely shut down.
I completely know that feeling. It's like I was trying to sign up for a new ceramics class this week, and the studio had, I think, 8 different schedule options with 4 different instructors.
Oh, wow.
And instead of just picking one, I literally closed the laptop and walked away. I couldn't do it.
Right. You hit a wall. And I think that's exactly where we need to start today, because I want everyone listening to imagine this scenario.
Okay, let's set the scene.
So you wake up, the alarm goes off, and it's pulling you out of this deep, heavy sleep. And before your feet even hit the floor, before you've even taken a fully conscious breath, your brain is already just sprinting.
The barrage starts immediately.
Instantly. Do I hit snooze? If I hit snooze, I get 9 more minutes, right?
Right, those 9 minutes cost you something.
Exactly. I mean, I have to skip the shower or, I have to skip making coffee. So do I get up now? You reach over to turn off the alarm, and there it is, the phone.
The glowing box of demands.
The glowing box. And you think, do I check it? And if I check it, do I look at my work email first or just my texts? Or maybe I just quickly open a social app, just a really quick scroll.
Which is never quick.
Never. But you make a choice. And then you finally roll out of bed, you stumble to the closet, you open the doors, and you just stare into the sea of fabric.
And the mental math begins.
Right. What am I wearing today? Does it match the weather? Does it match the specific meetings I have lined up? Does this shirt convey the right, energy for that presentation I have to give, or is it too casual?
And at this point, you haven't even made it to the kitchen yet.
Not even close. You finally get to the kitchen. What's for breakfast? Do I have time to actually make the oatmeal, or am I just grabbing a piece of toast? Do we even have that oat milk I supposedly bought yesterday?
The barista blend.
Right, the barista blend. And then the mental calendar opens up. What needs to happen first today? Which project is the priority?
It's exhausting.
It is.
Yeah.
And by the time you finally sit down at your desk or in your studio or wherever it is you do the work that actually matters to you, something feels really off. You feel this heavy, just inexplicable exhaustion.
Like a physical weight.
Yes, exactly. A physical weight right behind your eyes. You are already tired. You haven't even really started your day yet. You haven't done any of the hard work, but you feel completely drained and you cannot explain why.
And that feeling right there, that heaviness, that really subtle, insidious desire to just close your laptop and walk away before you've even typed a single word, that is where the great misdiagnosis of our generation happens.
Well, absolutely.
We look at that feeling, we feel that resistance in our bodies, and what do we call it? We call it laziness.
We do. We blame ourselves.
Totally. We call it a lack of discipline. We tell ourselves we just aren't motivated enough. We think, well, if I really cared about my goals, if I really cared about manifesting the life I say I want, I wouldn't feel this way.
We'd turn it into a moral failing.
You absolutely do.
Yeah.
But we need to name the actual culprit right here, right now, for everyone listening. This is not a lack of motivation.
No.
It is not a lack of discipline. It has absolutely nothing to do with your intelligence or your drive or your spiritual alignment. What you are experiencing is decision fatigue.
Welcome to Vibrations and Manifestations, Season 2, Episode 126.
I'm Jared.
And I'm Alicia. Today, we're taking a massive deep dive into the hidden mechanics of decision fatigue.
We are going to get into all of it.
We really are. We're going to map out your brain's finite energy reservoir. We are going to move through the awareness of this invisible drain. We are going to completely reframe that heavy guilt you feel around it. And then we're going to get incredibly practical.
That's the most important part.
Right, because we are going to look at radical simplification so you can literally redesign your day. Because your energy belongs to your life and your art and your future. It does not belong to your decision pile.
Exhaustion isn't a character flaw. It really is a structural leak.
Yep.
And today is about plugging that leak. We are going to approach this as an interactive workshop, moving from the hard science of cognitive load straight into the spiritual reality of how your daily choices either block or fuel your manifestation power.
I love that. But I do want to challenge the premise right out of the gate here. Because, we are adults.
Mostly, yeah.
Mostly. And we all know we have to make choices, right? It's just the baseline requirement of navigating reality. But why does deciding what to wear or, debating between a smoothie and a bagel, Why does that feel just as exhausting as deciding the future of a career or navigating a massive creative project?
That's a great question.
Why does a completely trivial choice carry so much physiological and emotional weight?
Well, to understand that, we have to completely shift how we view the brain. We so often think of our cognitive capacity as this muscle that just gets stronger the more we use it, or we think of it as this limitless well of intellect.
Like we can just push through anything if we try hard enough.
Exactly. But the reality is far more mechanical than that. The part of your brain responsible for making decisions, the prefrontal cortex, it actually doesn't differentiate between the perceived importance of a choice.
Wait, really? It doesn't care about the stakes.
It doesn't care at all. It only recognizes that a computational process is required. It requires biological energy, literally glucose, metabolic resources, to weigh variables, predict outcomes, and select a path.
So it's burning physical fuel.
Yes. When you are standing in the grocery store debating which brand of sparkling water aligns with your values, your brain is firing up the exact same executive functioning machinery that it uses to decide whether or not to end a relationship
Wow.
or whether or not to invest thousands of dollars into a new business venture. It's the same machinery.
See, that instantly reframes why the productivity literature is so obsessed with the wardrobes of historical innovators. Like, we've all heard the stories to the point where they are almost cliches at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Barack Obama only wearing blue or gray suits, Steve Jobs in the relentless black turtleneck and jeans,
Yeah.
Albert Einstein reportedly buying like several versions of the exact same gray suit.
And the cliche exists because society fundamentally misunderstood what those men were doing. We looked at the black turtleneck and we thought, well, that's eccentric genius behavior.
Or like brilliant personal branding.
Right. Personal branding. But it had absolutely nothing to do with fashion. When Obama was asked about the suits, he explicitly stated that he was paring down decisions. He said he had too many other decisions to make to waste energy on what to eat or wear.
He was protecting the machinery.
Yes, these leaders weren't succeeding because they had some superhuman, bottomless well of willpower. They succeeded because they engineered environments that proactively removed the need for willpower in the mundane areas of their lives.
They recognize that willpower is finite. It's a depleting resource.
Exactly. And instead of using the old, tired metaphor of a smartphone battery, let's think about it like a complex municipal water system.
Okay, I like this. Walk me through it.
So you have a main reservoir of water, and that is your daily cognitive energy, your executive function. Every single decision you have to make is a valve opening up and drawing water from that reservoir.
So deciding what to wear,
A valve opens.
debating between coffee or tea.
Another valve opens. Figuring out what route to take to work to avoid traffic. Yet another valve. And here's the really critical part. Even after you make the decision, if there's any lingering doubt or if you have pending decisions you haven't made yet, like what to make for dinner tonight, those valves don't close entirely.
They leak.
They leak. They drip, drip, drip in the background of your subconscious. And the reservoir doesn't care if the water is going to a fire hydrant to save a burning building or to a leaky garden hose. The water just drains. By noon, the reservoir is dangerously low and the pressure in the entire system drops.
That water pressure analogy is so perfect because you can actually feel that drop in pressure in your body. It's that 2 p.m. slump where you just want to stare at a wall.
Exactly.
And if you think about our modern world compared to the world of someone like Einstein, this strategy of radical simplification isn't just a fun hack anymore. It's an absolute survival requirement.
He really is.
I mean, Einstein wasn't waking up to a device that holds 4 different email inboxes, 3 messaging apps, relentless social media notifications, and a limitless library of streaming options.
Right. He wasn't scrolling through Netflix for 40 minutes trying to pick a documentary.
Exactly. He wasn't navigating a digital ecosystem that is meticulously designed by neuroscientists to extract micro decisions from him every 3 seconds. Do I reply to this email now or later? Do I watch this video? Do I scroll past this article? Do I accept these cookies?
Oh, the cookie banners.
Yeah.
Every single website.
Yes, we are being forced to spend our cognitive currency at a rate that is historically, evolutionarily unprecedented.
The human brain simply did not evolve to process this volume of low-stakes, high-frequency decisions. The sheer volume of incoming data that requires a yes, no, or maybe is staggering.
It's too much.
Our ancestors made a handful of high-stakes decisions a day. We make thousands of micro-decisions before we even finish our morning coffee. And then we sit around and wonder why we feel hollowed out by 11 in the morning.
I want to ground this in a very personal reality for a second, because I went through a period where this exact dynamic almost completely broke my spirit.
I remember you telling me a bit about this.
Yeah, it was a few years ago. And I was in this phase where, on paper, my life was profoundly aligned. I was in a deeply committed relationship. I was deeply involved in this major creative project that I had been trying to manifest for years. Everything I had asked the universe for was sitting right in front of me.
That sounds like the dream.
It was supposed to be. But my daily lived experience was miserable. My calendar was just a wall of solid color. It was packed. And I remember this specific stretch of time where every single day felt like wading through wet cement.
Wading through wet cement. That is exactly the physical sensation of decision fatigue.
It was suffocating. I would wake up and immediately my partner and I would start the negotiation of the day. And because we're both vegan, meals aren't always just a quick, thoughtless grab and go from the
Yep.
nearest drive-through.
Right. There's always logistical planning involved.
Yeah. Exactly. So the morning would start with, what are we doing for lunch? Who is doing the grocery shopping? Are we cooking tonight or getting takeout? If you get takeout, does that place still have the menu items we can actually eat?
And it sounds like harmless planning,
Right.
right? Just couples coordinating.
Yeah.
But it's actually an immediate draw on the executive function reservoir.
A massive draw. The friction was just everywhere. So by the time I'd actually sit down at my desk, I had already spent an hour negotiating logistics. Then I'd open my computer, and there were 50 emails, all requiring tiny decisions.
The valves are just wide open, draining
Yeah.
the water.
Yes. And then finally, I'd look at my creative project, the thing I actually cared about, the thing that required my deepest, most original thought, my clearest energetic frequency, and I would just stare at the screen.
The blinking cursor.
The cursor would just blink at me, mocking me, and my brain would completely flatline. I would find myself getting up to physically reorganize the pens on my desk, or I'd start deep cleaning the kitchen counters, or checking the news.
You were engaging in displacement activities because the intrinsic cognitive load of the creative work was just too high for a depleted brain to handle.
And the worst part wasn't even the procrastination, it was the guilt.
The shame is so heavy.
The shame was suffocating because I was busy all day long. I was moving around. I was checking off tiny, insignificant boxes, but absolutely no meaningful progress was being made on the big things.
Right.
By the time the evening rolled around, I was completely hollowed out. I felt like an absolute imposter. I remember sitting on the edge of the bed thinking, I asked for this life, and I guess I just don't have what it takes to live it. I don't have the discipline. I'm just lazy.
It breaks my heart to hear that because I know that exact flavor of shame. So many people listening right now know that exact flavor of shame. How did you break the cycle? How did you get out of the wet cement?
Honestly, it was almost an accident. It was the discovery of intentional subtraction. I realized I was bleeding energy, so I decided, purely out of desperation, to fix just one sequence in my day. Just one.
What did you do?
I made my morning routine permanent, militaristic, and entirely non-negotiable. I decided I would wake up at the exact same time, I would eat the exact same breakfast, which was a specific, nutrient-dense smoothie every single day.
Taking the food decision entirely off the table.
Entirely. I would wear clothes that I had already chosen and laid out the night before, and I instituted a hard rule. I would not look at a screen, a message, or an email until exactly 9 a.m. I took probably 40 micro decisions and reduced them to 0.
You shut off the valves.
I completely shut them off, and the result was terrifyingly immediate. It was like someone had taken a heavy, soaked wool blanket off my brain.
Wow.
Suddenly, I sat down at my desk at 9 a.m., and my energy tank was entirely full. That profound sense of clarity, that return vitality, it was shocking to me because I hadn't gained more hours in the day. I hadn't magically become a better or more enlightened or smarter person. I had just stopped leaking my creative currency on things that fundamentally did not matter.
This is such a pivotal realization for everyone listening right now. If you are seeing yourself in this story, if you are feeling that familiar sting of recognition right now, I want to validate you completely.
Please, yes, take that in.
People constantly misdiagnose themselves as lazy. You sit on the couch at the end of the day looking at the monumental list of things you didn't do, the creative work you avoided, the meditation you skipped, and you judge yourself so harshly.
We're so mean to ourselves.
We are. But you must understand this. The architecture of your day is simply leaking your energy. Your modern environment is designed with hostile intent to extract decisions from you constantly.
Hostile intent. That's a strong phrase, but it's true.
It is true. Recognizing this structural failure Realizing that it's an engineering problem, not a spiritual or moral failing, provides immense, immediate emotional relief. You aren't broken. You aren't unmotivated. Your daily architecture is just draining your reservoir before you even step onto the battlefield.
That reframing is everything. Let's transition from the experiential reality of this into the hard psychology, though, because understanding the exact mechanics of how this depletion happens is what actually gives us the power to dismantle it.
Absolutely. So the foundational psychology here comes from the work of Roy Baumeister. He's the psychologist who actually coined the term ego depletion.
And we should probably clarify what ego means in this context, right? Because it's not about arrogance.
Right, right. In psychology, the ego in this context isn't your pride or your sense of self-importance. It refers to the active, conscious part of yourself that exercises restraint, makes deliberate choices, and overrides impulses.
Okay, got it.
So Baumeister's research demonstrated something absolutely groundbreaking for our understanding of human behavior. Willpower, emotional self-control, and logical decision-making do not live in separate compartments of the brain. They all pull from the exact same, highly finite cognitive pool.
The exact same pool, meaning the biological energy required to resist eating a donut in the break room is the exact same energy required to decide how to structure a complex corporate merger.
Yes.
Which is the exact same energy required to bite your tongue instead of snapping at your partner when they leave their shoes in the hallway.
Precisely. It is all paid for with the exact same physiological currency. And the most chilling illustration of just how powerful and completely unconscious this depletion is comes from a piece of research that should honestly be mandatory reading for every human being.
I know exactly what you're going to bring up, the judges.
Yes. It's often referred to as the Israeli Judges Study, officially titled Extraneous Factors in Judicial Decisions.
This study completely shatters the illusion that we are perfectly rational, logical creatures.
It really does. So researchers looked at parole board judges in Israel. Now, keep in mind, these are highly trained, deeply experienced professionals. Their entire life's work, their entire professional identity is predicated on weighing complex legal evidence logically, impartially, and fairly.
They are literally the gold standard for objective decision-making.
Right. So the researchers analyzed over 1,000 rulings to see what factors actually influence whether a prisoner was granted parole or denied.
And you would naturally assume the strongest predictors would be, the severity of the original crime or the prisoner's behavioral record in prison, or maybe their rehabilitation program participation.
You would assume that, because that is what the legal system is supposed to be based on. But the data revealed something terrifying. Those factors were actually secondary.
Wow.
The absolute strongest predictor of the outcome was the time of day the judge heard the case.
The time of day.
The time of day. If you, as a prisoner, appeared before the judge early in the morning, right after they'd arrived fresh, had their breakfast, and their cognitive tank was full, you had roughly a 65% chance of getting a favorable ruling and being granted parole.
65%. Okay, that's a solid, reasoned baseline.
Yes. But as the morning wore on, and the judge had to make decision after decision after decision, reading files, weighing testimonies, calculating risks, that favorable ruling rate steadily dropped. It was a perfect downward slope.
Oh, man.
Right before their midday lunch break, when their decision fatigue was at its absolute peak, the chance of a favorable ruling dropped to nearly zero.
Wait, literally zero?
Statistically near zero.
That is horrifying.
It is. And then the judge takes a break. They step away, they eat a sandwich, their blood glucose levels replenish, they rest their executive function, and immediately after the break, the very next case they hear, the favorable ruling rate spikes right back up to 65%.
Okay, so what is the actual mechanism happening there? Because it's really crucial to understand that these judges were not consciously becoming malicious or evil or punitive as the day went on, right? They weren't looking at the clock and deciding to be harsh.
No, absolutely not. They were completely blind to their own behavioral shift. What was happening was profound cognitive depletion. Granting parole is a highly complex, incredibly risky decision. It requires heavy mental lifting. You have to synthesize a massive amount of data, project future behavior, and accept personal responsibility if the prisoner reoffends.
It's a huge cognitive load.
Exactly. Denying parole, on the other hand, simply maintains the status quo. It's the default. It's safe. It requires almost zero processing power. The prisoner stays in prison, nothing changes, no risk is assumed.
So they just default to safety.
When the human brain is exhausted, when that prefrontal cortex is depleted of its metabolic resources, It always inevitably defaults to the easiest, safest option that requires the least amount of computational effort.
It just shuts down the complex processing and defers to the path of least resistance.
Exactly. The late-day rulings weren't based on logic or justice. They were purely based on biological depletion. Now, I want everyone listening to bring that reality directly into your own life.
Yes, apply this to your own Tuesday.
You are the judge of your own life's docket. If you spend your entire morning making 50 trivial, logistical choices about emails, clothes, and breakfast, by the time you face the big, important decisions of your day, your brain is going to default to the easiest option.
How to handle a difficult client, how to structure your novel, how to communicate a boundary to a family member.
You will say yes when you should say no. You will avoid the hard conversation. You will produce mediocre work because your brain literally lacks the fuel to do the heavy lifting.
And this ties directly into the work of educational psychologist John Sweller and cognitive load theory. Sweller talks extensively about working memory having incredibly strict, unyielding limits.
A RAM of the brain.
Right. If your brain is a highly advanced computer, your long-term memory is the hard drive, holding vast amounts of data. But your working memory, the part of you actively processing the present moment, is the RAM. It is highly volatile and extremely limited.
You can only hold so much at once.
You can only hold a handful of variables in your active attention at one time. If you exceed that limit, if you introduce too many inputs, too many choices, too much environmental noise, the neural switching costs become too high. Your performance drops drastically. The system crashes.
And when that system crashes, when the cognitive tank hits absolute zero and the RAM is overloaded, human behavior generally falls into one of two distinct failure modes.
Let's break those down, because this is where people are really going to recognize themselves. Failure mode 1 is you choose poorly.
Oh, yes.
This is the phenomenon where your brain is so deeply tired that the executive function just hands the steering wheel over to the primitive, impulse-driven parts of the brain. You default to immediate comfort. You react emotionally instead of responding logically.
It's pure impulse.
This is the exact neurological mechanism behind late-night online shopping. Think about it. You've been making good choices all day. You've been managing your temper at work. You've been navigating traffic. You've been doing your job. And by 10 p.m., your cognitive tank is completely dry.
Bone dry.
And then you see a highly targeted ad for a kitchen gadget or a pair of shoes you absolutely do not need. Instead of the prefrontal cortex stepping in and critically evaluating the purchase, saying, wait, we are trying to save money. We don't need this. The boundary enforcement part of your brain is essentially asleep.
It's logged off for the night.
It has left the building. Your depleted brain just says, yes, buy it. Give me the immediate dopamine hit.
It's the exact same reason junk food binges almost always happen late at night, never at 10 in the morning. You choose poorly because the mental machinery required to enforce your long-term goals has shut down for the day.
And then there is failure mode 2, which is you avoid choosing entirely. This is the paralysis state.
The doom scroll.
The doom scroll. This is when you have an email sitting in your inbox from a friend or a colleague that requires a thoughtful, nuanced reply. And instead of answering it, you open it, look at it, and mark it as unread.
You tell yourself, oh, I'll deal with that tomorrow.
You procrastinate. Not because the task is inherently that difficult, but because your brain simply refuses to process the variables required to make the decision. The processing center has hung a closed sign on the door. You sit on the couch and scroll through social media for 2 hours because scrolling requires zero active choice. It is purely passive consumption.
So we see the hard science. We see the neurological mechanics of depletion. But here is where this conversation gets truly profound, especially for our listeners here at Vibrations and Manifestations. Because this isn't just about productivity hacks or getting more tasks crossed off a to-do list.
No, it's so much bigger than that.
There is a deep, vital, spiritual, and energetic layer to this that we have to integrate.
It is the absolute core of the work. If we take the science of cognitive load and working memory and we map it onto the realm of manifestation and energetic alignment, we see the exact same principles at play, just described with different vocabulary. Energy is your creative currency. Attention is the mechanism by which you shape reality. Where you place your attention is where you direct your life force.
Let's bring in the teachings of Neville Goddard here, specifically from his work, Feeling is the Secret. Neville's core premise, which is foundational to understanding manifestation, is that to bring your desired reality into the physical world, you must impress that reality upon your subconscious mind.
You have to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled.
Right. But the subconscious is highly receptive. It is accessed most powerfully and cleanly when the conscious, calculating, hyper-analytical decision-making mind is quieted down.
The analytical mind creates static. I always think about it like a radio. If your conscious mind is frantically trying to calculate 100 logistical variables, like what to wear, what to eat, what time to leave, how to reply to that email, it is generating massive amounts of mental static.
Just loud, buzzing static.
The frequency is chaotic. You cannot tune into the subtle, quiet frequencies of intuition or higher guidance or clear intention when your inner radio is blasting the static of decision fatigue.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it. The static masks the signal. Look at ancient monastic traditions across the globe. From Zen Buddhism to Christian mysticism, what do they all have in common? They take vows of radical simplicity.
Right.
The monks wear the exact same robes every single day. They eat simple, standardized meals at the exact same times. They follow a strict, unvarying daily schedule.
And from the outside, modern hyper-consumer society often views this as restriction or deprivation or punishment.
But it is the exact opposite. It is the ultimate technology of spiritual liberation.
They are intentionally removing the noise of the outer world so that the inner voice can be amplified.
Precisely. They are fiercely hoarding their decision-making energy, protecting their cognitive reservoir, so they can spend every drop of it on spiritual alignment, deep meditation, and connection to Source. They understand that the physical environment must be structured in order for the spiritual environment to expand.
It's so intentional.
Protecting your energy from the relentless friction of trivial choices isn't about becoming a more efficient worker bee in the capitalist machine. It is the ultimate act of spiritual sovereignty.
Physical structure creates spiritual spaciousness. I really want everyone to let that sink in. Okay, we have covered immense ground. We understand the physical drain. We see the neurological mechanics. We understand the spiritual cost. Now, we are going to pivot into the workshop portion of this deep dive.
This is where the rubber meets the road.
Because awareness without application just becomes another form of entertainment. We want you to take immediate visceral action on this.
Knowledge only changes your life when you embody it.
Exactly. So we're going to do an interactive exercise right now. If you are driving, please keep your eyes on the road and just do this mentally. But if you are sitting somewhere, if you are walking, pause what you are doing. Grab a pen or open a note on your phone. I want you to identify the leaks.
Find the open valves.
I want you to write down 3 daily, recurring, low-stakes decisions that are currently draining your energy. What are the logistical things you debate with yourself about every single day that truly do not matter in the grand scheme of your life?
Give you a few seconds to really think about this.
Really look at your daily friction. Is it the negotiation of what to make for dinner every night at 5 p.m.? Is it the debate of when or if to exercise today? Is it standing in your closet feeling overwhelmed by clothes that don't fit your current identity? Name them. Bring these invisible drains out of the shadows and put them on paper.
Once you have those 3 leaks identified, we're going to apply the solution framework. This is a very specific 3-step process for radical simplification.
Okay, lay it out for us.
The first step is the most aggressive and the most effective. Step 1 is to eliminate. You need to look at your life and ruthlessly remove decisions that simply shouldn't exist as daily burdens. You standardize.
Standardize. Give me an example.
If deciding what to eat for lunch is a constant source of friction and negotiation, eliminate the decision entirely. Decide on a standard lunch or a rotating menu of 3 highly specific lunches and never, ever think about it again. Make the choice once, consciously, and let it run on autopilot.
This applies so powerfully to wardrobes, too. You don't have to adopt the extreme black turtleneck uniform, but you can curate a capsule wardrobe. If you eliminate clothes that don't fit, don't match, or require constant adjusting, you eliminate the possibility of a bad combination.
Right, you literally can't make a wrong choice.
Which means you entirely eliminate the need to deliberate over getting dressed. The choice is removed.
The second step, moving down the hierarchy, is to automate. This is where you create rigid, if this then that, algorithms for your personal life.
I love algorithms for the personal life.
Let's look at finances. If you get a bill in the mail, what is the process? If it's not automated, every bill becomes a multi-step decision. You have to decide when to pay it, how to log in, which account to use.
So much friction.
Instead, automate the rule. All recurring bills are set to autopay on the 1st of the month. The decision is gone. Or look at your physical health. Instead of waking up on Tuesday and checking your motivation levels, asking yourself, do I feel like working out today? Which, by the way, requires a massive amount of executive function to overcome inertia.
Because the answer is usually no, I don't feel like it.
Exactly. So instead of that, you create an automated rule. If it is Tuesday, I go to the gym immediately after work. You do not consult your feelings. The rule has already made the decision for you. You are just executing the script.
Yes, you rely on systems, not feelings. And then the third step, for the things you absolutely cannot eliminate or automate, is to schedule. This is where we talk about energetic boundary setting. This is where you fiercely, uncompromisingly protect your peak cognitive window.
This is so vital.
Every single human being has a biological window when their executive function reservoir is at absolute maximum capacity. For me, it is the first 3 hours of the morning right after I wake up. For others, it might be late at night when the house is quiet.
You have to know your window.
Whenever that window is, you must guard it like your life depends on it, because the quality of your manifested life absolutely does. Do not schedule doctor's appointments, low-level meetings, grocery shopping, or email triage during your peak window. Doing so is an energetic tragedy. Put your deep creative work, your dedicated manifestation practices, your hardest problems squarely in that protected window.
And this framework ties perfectly into David Allen's profound concept of open loops from his methodology in getting things done. This is crucial to understand. An open loop is any commitment, idea, or unresolved decision that you are keeping active in your short-term memory rather than externalizing it into a trusted system.
Right.
It's the thought, oh, I really need to call my mom back. Or I should look into fixing that leaky faucet this weekend. Or I need to decide if I'm actually going to take that trip in July.
They seem harmless, just passing thoughts.
But psychologically, they're toxic because of a phenomenon called the Zeigarnik effect. Human beings remember uncompleted or interrupted tasks far better than completed ones.
It's why a catchy song gets stuck in your head if you only hear the chorus.
Exactly. These open loops act as invisible, constant drains. They are those leaky valves we talked about earlier. Every single time your subconscious mind scans its internal landscape to figure out what you should be doing, it trips over these open loops. It burns metabolic energy simply reminding you that they exist, and then burns more energy feeling guilty about not doing them.
So how do we stop the leak?
You have to aggressively close the loops. You either do the task immediately. If it takes less than 2 minutes, you delegate it, or you explicitly decide not to do it right now and put it on a calendar for a specific future date. Once it is on the calendar, the brain trusts the system, the loop closes, and the energy returns.
Okay, I have to step in and represent the skeptic here, because I can hear someone listening right now, maybe someone who identifies as a highly creative, free-spirited person saying, well, if I eliminate my choices, if I automate my routines with these rigid rules, if I schedule every minute of my deep work, don't I lose all my spontaneity? Am I just becoming a hyper-optimized robot? Isn't a beautifully manifested life supposed to be a little messy, flowing, and free?
It is the most common natural fear people have when confronting this material. It really is. But it reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of what true freedom actually is. Let me counter that fear with a reality check. Structure in the trivial logistics of life creates the actual energy and cognitive bandwidth required for true spontaneity in the things that actually matter.
Let's use an analogy here to make this concrete. Think about a master jazz musician.
Perfect, yes.
Jazz is celebrated as highly improvisational. It is the epitome of musical spontaneity. It looks like pure, unconstrained freedom. But that musician can only improvise freely on stage because they have rigorously, structurally, and repetitively mastered the fundamental scales for thousands of hours.
I've done the boring work.
They don't have to consciously think about where their fingers go on the brass. The mechanics are entirely automated in their muscle memory. Because the baseline mechanics require zero cognitive load, their conscious mind is completely free to detach and float in the realm of pure, spontaneous creation.
That is exactly how it works. If you are deeply exhausted from deciding what to wear, negotiating what to eat, and trying to remember when to pay your electric bill, you do not possess the energetic capacity to be spontaneous.
You just don't.
You do not have the energy to spontaneously decide to take a weekend road trip, or spontaneously sit down and write a beautiful poem, or be deeply, spontaneously present and playful with a loved one. The exhausted, decision-fatigued person isn't spontaneous. They're just surviving day to day, reacting to whatever fire is in front of them. Radical simplification of the mundane gives you your creative spirit back.
That reframing changes everything. Structure is not the enemy of freedom. Structure is the prerequisite for true freedom.
Yeah.
Love that. Okay, let's move into the final phase of our workshop today, which is what we call manifestation debug mode.
Let's clear the remaining static and tune completely into the magic.
We are going to directly tackle 3 specific limiting beliefs. These are the psychological traps, the stories we tell ourselves, that justify holding on to the chaos and keep us locked in a state of chronic exhaustion. Belief number 1. Every decision deserves careful thought. If I don't weigh all my options, I'm being irresponsible.
We see this everywhere, especially with highly intelligent, conscientious, deeply caring people. It's the trap of the maximizer. They feel that if they don't weigh every variable of a choice to find the absolutely perfect outcome, they are failing.
Like researching a toaster for 4 hours.
Exactly. But the hard truth is this. Careful thought is a severely limited biological resource. You do not have an infinite supply of it. If you spend your precious, careful thought analyzing reviews for 2 hours to find the absolute best brand of paper towels or the perfect coaster, you will literally have less neurological capacity to thoughtfully handle a conflict in your relationship later that day.
Wow.
You have to budget your careful thought exactly like it's cash in a bank account. Spend it fiercely and wisely on things that alter the trajectory of your life, on your art, on your healing. Buy the generic paper towels, accept that they are good enough, and move on.
Budget your thought. That is powerful. Here is limiting belief number 2, and it is a massive one. I work best under pressure. We have all said this. I'm a procrastinator, but it's fine. The pressure focuses me. I do my best work at the 11th hour when the deadline is looming.
I used to say that constantly to justify my own chaotic behavior. I'd put off writing a major paper or finishing a project until the night before, fueled by adrenaline and panic. But the stark, scientific reality is this. Pressure does not miraculously improve your cognitive abilities.
Cortisol is not a creativity hack.
Cortisol does not make you a better artist or a smarter thinker. What pressure actually does is force a severely depleted brain to make an inevitable choice, simply because there is literally no time left to avoid it.
The paralysis is broken by panic.
Yes. You aren't making a good decision, you are making the only decision left available to you. People confuse the profound emotional relief of finality, the relief that the agonizing decision-making process is finally over, with the quality of the execution. We think, wow, I got it done, I'm a genius under pressure.
When really you just survived it.
No, you just survived. Imagine what you could create. Imagine the frequency you could tap into if you engaged with the work when your tank was completely full, rather than when a deadline put a neurological gun to your head.
Confusing the relief of finality with the quality of execution, that is a massive paradigm shift. And finally, belief number 3, which we touched on with the jazz analogy but needs to be explicitly debugged. Structure removes my freedom.
The absolute truth here is that the exhausted person who is deciding everything from scratch every single day isn't free. They are trapped by their own decision load. They are a prisoner to their own lack of systems. True freedom is walking into your day knowing the baseline logistics of survival are handled, allowing your consciousness to elevate to higher, more beautiful pursuits.
As we prepare to close this deep dive, I want to guide us into a moment of physical and energetic integration. We've talked through the hard science, the practical strategies, the philosophical beliefs. Now I want to slow everything down. I want to guide you, the listener, into a calm, sensory-rich experience of what is actually possible for you.
Take a breath here.
If it is safe to do so, if you aren't driving, just soften your gaze right now, or close your eyes entirely. Take a deep, intentional breath in through your nose, hold it for just a moment, and let it out slowly, letting your shoulders drop. I want you to imagine waking up tomorrow morning. The alarm goes off, but there is no panic in your chest. There is zero friction. You roll out of bed, and the clothes you are going to wear are already set out waiting for you. There is no standing in the closet, weighing options, feeling bad about how things fit. You just step into them. You walk into the kitchen. The morning meal is already decided. The ingredients are ready. The exact sequence of your morning is locked in. You move through your space like water flowing down a smooth riverbed. No rocks, no snags, no micro-negotiations. Notice how that feels in your physical body right now. Notice the absence of tension in your jaw. Notice the profound quietness in your mind. Now imagine walking over to your workspace or your studio or wherever you sit down to do your most important soul-level work. You sit down. And as you open your computer or your notebook, I want you to physically feel the spaciousness and clarity inside of you. Your energy reservoir is completely, beautifully full. It is entirely unspent. All of your cognitive power, all of your creative currency is available for the exact task in front of you. Feel that profound alignment.
Hold on to that feeling. Anchor it in your body. Because this is the core insight of everything we have discussed today.
Yeah.
What you just felt in that visualization, this is not a fantasy. This is not a luxury reserved for billionaires or monks. This is design. This is a state of being that is entirely available to you starting tomorrow, simply by removing the unnecessary choices that stand in its way.
Let's recap the journey we just took. We started by identifying that heavy, tired feeling not as a lack of motivation, but as a measurable structural leak called decision fatigue. We looked at how willpower and decision-making pull from a finite biological pool, and how the architecture of modern life drains that pool faster than ever before, causing us to default to the path of least resistance.
We saw that the solution isn't to judge ourselves or push harder or try to magically generate more willpower. The solution is to radically simplify, to eliminate the trivial, automate the recurring, and schedule the vital. By deciding less on the logistical things that don't matter, we create the vast space and the energetic currency required for intentional manifestation. We quiet the static so we can tune into the magic.
Which brings us to your final action step. This is an interactive workshop, and I do not want you to just listen to this, feel inspired for 10 minutes, and go back to your chaotic morning tomorrow. I want you to change the architecture of your tomorrow. Before this deep dive ends, I want you to write down one permanent default choice. Look back at the 3 draining decisions you listed earlier. Pick just one of them. Eliminate it. Decide right now, permanently, what the answer is going to be from this day forward. Maybe it's exactly what you eat for breakfast every weekday. Maybe it's the exact time you wake up. Lock it in and remove it from your cognitive load forever.
Just one choice? That's all it takes to stop the leak and start feeling the momentum build.
And once you have reclaimed that energy, once that reservoir starts filling up, you're going to need to know how to use it without getting in your own way. Which is why I am incredibly excited for our next deep dive. In episode 127, we are going to be unpacking perfectionism. We are going to explore why aiming for 100% is actually keeping your best, most transformative work hidden from the world, and why the 80% rule is the master key to everything. If you've ever found yourself paralyzed, unable to launch the project or post the art because something wasn't quite right yet, you will not want to miss that conversation.
It is going to be a deeply powerful exploration. To leave you today, I want to offer a final lingering thought to meditate on. We have talked extensively today about intentionally designing your life by removing choices and setting up your own defaults. But we are living in a world where artificial intelligence and highly advanced algorithms are increasingly, aggressively eager to make our choices for us. They tell us what movie to watch next, what items to buy, what articles to read, what music matches our mood, and it feels so convenient. It feels, on the surface, like they are reducing our decision fatigue. But as conscious creators, we must ask ourselves a very serious question. Are we deliberately outsourcing the trivial logistics to protect our creative energy? Or are we accidentally surrendering our manifestation power, our very attention, to a machine? When an algorithm dictates your attention, it dictates your reality. Protect your choices fiercely, because what you choose to focus on becomes your life.
Protect your choices. Reclaim your energy. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us today. Until next time.